And so now I'm going to talk about this idea of oneness. And I'm going to approach it from the idea that there is a spiritual principle of conscious living. And a principle is not something that changes. A principle is something that is always there. You can count on it. It always functions like gravity. Gravity is always there. And so is this principle of conscious living. And we understand how valuable it is when we get the idea that our consciousness creates our life experience. The consciousness that we are, the awareness that we are, whether it's conscious consciousness or unconscious consciousness. I know that sounds a little redundant, but there's true. Our consciousness is either focused consciously, we direct it toward a specific thing, or we're not aware and we're living by habit, we're living by reaction, we're living by the average of the consciousness that surrounds us. But whatever it is, the consciousness that we are creates our experience. So what that means to me is that we create, I call it a mental atmosphere. Personal consciousness and mental atmosphere, I think you can exchange those two things. And that's the summation of everything that we've ever thought. And that atmosphere is what goes before us. It's an energy field that we take into the world. And you know that. You've met people. Have you ever walked up to someone and you go, "Oh, I can't be around them." Why? It's an energy. It's like a dog. A dog can sense an energy of someone, whether they'll allow them to be petted or not. A baby will tell you right away if you're vibrating in a consciousness that they can accept or understand. A baby will go to someone that they feel safe with, they feel loved with, they feel accepted with. So it's that consciousness that creates an atmosphere around us, and that attracts and creates our life experience. When I look at the idea of God, I can also call God mind. Universal mind, infinite mind, or mind with a capital M. It is not the brain. And so what I understand is that the mind that created and conceived us first, it conceived us and created us, it also gave us its power to create. So we have the very creative power within our consciousness to create our lives, just like the infinite created all that exists. The question is, are you aware that you have that power? Or do you see yourself from a consciousness of being a victim, that things are happening to you? It's real interesting to note that whether you know it or not, the mind that you are a part of, the individualization of the one mind, that mind that conceived and created all that is working through you, and it is creating your experience. And you're the one that's guiding it. You're directing it. You're framing the experience by the thought atmosphere, by the consciousness that you create for yourself. In order to directly use this creative power that we're talking about, the most important thing is we must recognize that it exists. And not only that it exists, but we have the availability to use it. And I guess the simplest example of that is with electricity. You know, when you go to the light switch and you flip the light switch on, you know that there will be light. You don't know how it works. You don't understand all of the logic behind it, but you have proven to yourself, I turn on that switch and the lights go on. I turn that switch off, the lights go off. It's the same thing with the creative power that exists within us. We can use it. It's there for us. It's always been there for us. It's there from us from the time we're conceived. That power is within us. The problem that happens for us is that for the first 7 years, we're not aware. We're blindly accepting everything that comes into our consciousness that our parents, our schools, our churches, our politicians, society feeds us. We blindly buy into that. And that becomes the consciousness in which we look at life. That's the consciousness that also attracts to us. It is only later in life, when we're able to discern and make conscious choices, that we can begin to refocus our lens that we look through life. And that's the process. That's developing a real conscious form of living, is refocusing the lens through which we look at life. And however we focus that lens, this power that exists within everyone creates our experience. So the power is within you. It's always been within you. The thing that we got to also understand is that when we know that we are one with the infinite, and we create our experience, we can now embrace the importance of living consciously. You see, there's the connection there. We have the power to create, but what is it that gives it its power? It's the oneness. It's knowing that we're one with the infinite that created everything out there. That's what gives it its power. It's not our ego that creates. It's not the small Lee or the small who, whatever your name is. It's not that. It's something so much greater than we are, that it knows no bounds whatsoever. No bounds whatsoever. And so knowing that the power is there, it's not us, but it is moving through us, in us, and from us, and creating. Whoa. When we understand that we're one with it, and we understand that we're using it, that gives us the ability to recognize it, and we can now embrace it instead of living a law of average. A law of average is where we're not consciously thinking. We're not consciously making choices, consciously doing actions, understanding that there's a law of cause and effect working, when we're not consciously understanding that we're going to have an average experience. And so today, with everything that's going on in the world right now, with this virus that is spreading, with what it appears to be happening within the economy, if you're not consciously focusing, that tidal wave of negative energy will cause you to have a negative experience. And when I say negative, an experience not of your conscious choosing, but rather an average experience of everyone around you. I ask the question, are you average? Do you want to be average? I certainly don't. I love being on the leading edge. And if you're listening to this, you too like being on the leading edge. But when we know our oneness, and we know that that oneness has given us a power, and that power responds to us through our consciousness, we're going to accept that, we're going to embrace that, and we're going to step out into the unknown. And we're going to find it's comfortable to be by ourselves and to use this power. And so, this creative power that we've been talking about, it exists. But here's the key thing. It exists whether we're aware of it or not. And so if it's better to say it this way. You're using this power every moment of every day of your life. And so most of your life is unconscious, so you're creating unconsciously. Now that you're aware of it, it's time to build that conscious habit, to consciously create the you that you desire to be, to create the experiences that you desire to have, to come out of experiences you no longer desire and to create new ones. It's in your power. But if you don't use the power consciously, the power is still working through you, it is still creating, and it's not going to be the experience you want. You got to test this. You got to start to prove this for yourself. Whether I tell you this or not, it works for me. I know it works for others. They've told me it works for them. And I know it works for me when I'm unconscious because I find myself going in and out of consciousness. And then when I find I'm having that experience that I'm not liking, I realize that's not me consciously choosing it. I've allowed myself to become unconscious. I've allowed myself to go back to average. I choose not to be a victim. And so when I have that feeling, I make a conscious choice to change where I'm at. You see, this power that we use, it can make us sick, it can make us well. It can make us wealthy, it can make us poor. We determine how it works in our life based on our level of consciousness and how we use it to live our lives. You see, it's in you. There's a song that came out, I want to say in the 50s, it's in every one of us. That song never rang more true than it does today. It is in every one of us. So when you're talking with people and you're socializing through the internet, through the phone, however you can, remind people that the power to shift their abilities, it's within them. How we live reflects the level of our consciousness. So if you ever need to know how conscious are you, look at your life. Your life will reflect back to you exactly the consciousness that you are at that time. Life is a mirror. It's there to remind us that we are one, we have the power to create, and we can use it to create anything. All we have to do is to remember and to use it.
I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask that you go to our website, agapecsl.com. Once there, click on the donate button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. Or if you would like, text your gift by simply dialing 972-532-6976. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to you in the world. I would ask that if you like this message, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel under my name, Lee Wolak. Again, I want to thank you for joining me in the Agape community as we learn how to better self-love through conscious living.